Hello everyone and welcome to our special series about the 2025 Annual Town Meeting. This series is designed to help inform residents about issues that are important to the town. Each segment is about a specific article or group of articles, so make sure you check in to find the issue that's important to you or to learn about all of the issues our town is facing. The next segment of our series on the 2025 Annual Town Meeting discusses the recommendations from our Community Preservation Committee. This committee uses Community Preservation Act funds in order to fund several projects around town, and something that residents are very familiar with as we address various issues. In order for residents and voters to better understand these recommendations, I am joined by CPC Chair Barney Arnold.
For this next series of articles, we're going to talk about, so there's a few acronyms here, the Community Preservation Committee's work on Community Preservation Act money. So all of this is extra money charged to residents in order to support certain projects. But I'm not going to do as good a job as my guest of explaining this, so would you mind introducing yourself, although more people know you than me?
Hi, I'm Barney Arnold, and I live just down the road on Lowell Street, and I am the chair of another acronym, the CPC Committee, which is the local group here in town, small committee that manages those CPA funds and then makes recommendations at town meeting, which you will hear about in May, of specific projects that we are recommending be funded.
And you're on the select board, so also chair of the CPC, so why did you get involved with the CPC?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a great program, and it has allowed the Carlisle community to do some things for our town that really benefit our town that we wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So, the new upgraded Carlisle playground, the Carlisle Castle we build, is a great example. CPA didn't fund all of it, but we put in the town approved a good amount for that. And then many of you must use the library, our beautiful Gleason Library, and we helped in the original building of it, and then also in a previous renovation, and now again we're doing another upgrade. So it's a great program, and so when I had the opportunity to represent the select board on that committee, I thought I'd really like to help and be part of reviewing the proposals that we get and then making recommendations to town meeting.
So this video is going to discuss several of the proposed CPC articles, but before I get into that, can you talk about the process of people applying for these funds and how it gets to town meeting?
Sure. So at the end of last year, the committee opened up the funding cycle, and there's an online application that's pretty detailed. And so those that are interested in putting forward a project for CPA funds submit the application to our committee. We review it. Sometimes they're not eligible, and I can get into that in a second. But assuming they're eligible, they meet the qualifications for receiving CPA money, then we go forward with them working through the details, making sure they have a tight budget, realistic request for how much they want, and then at a certain point, our committee, we take a vote on what we want to recommend to town meeting. And unlike a lot of other of our volunteer boards and committees, because this is a state act that our local committee is responsible for managing, it only takes a vote of the CPC committee. So whatever we want to recommend to town meeting automatically goes to town meeting, which is a little different than most other proposals. Yep. Should I talk about the eligibility?
Yes, please.
Okay. So there are 3 buckets. That's how we refer to them. That's not the legal language. But there are 3 buckets that the state set up because they recognized back in 2000 that there's a lot of state funds designated for certain things that benefit local towns, like, education money and money for, roads and highways, that kind of thing. But there are some local projects that a community can't afford, but they thought it would be a good idea to put together a way for a community to develop a small fund. And it's something that each town chose to join or not. So in Carlisle, we voted overwhelmingly to join in the early 2000s. And the three categories are open space and recreation. So, preserving a parcel that we can put trails on, or the recreation has to be outdoors. So, the playground that I mentioned. So that's one category. Another category is historic preservation. And right around the corner here at our lovely old cemetery, we're using CPA money to straighten up all those headstones and clean them up and really bring it back to what it was meant to be when that burial ground was first established way back. And the third category is community housing. And an example of last year using some of that money was we were researching and doing the analysis to figure out if the Cranberry Bog House is a structure that we could convert to housing. And under the CPA, it has to be affordable housing. So it's very different from other housing projects that might come along. And the whole notion behind that is that there are funds that we could use to try to create, more affordable housing in Carlisle.
And that's going to be one of the proposals this year. So the way this is going to be structured at town meeting, thanks to the town meeting study committee and other recommendations, is an appropriation article, which is boring government word for putting money in those buckets you talked about. And then we're going to review some of the projects on the recreation historical side. And there's going to be a separate vote on the amenities building, which you're going to hear a lot about from Brian and Julie. So let's get into it.
Okay.
One of the most important topics at town meeting is funding for the amenities building at the Concord Carlisle Regional High School. I'm joined by a couple special guests. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Brian Watterson. I am on the Regional School Committee as well as the Carlisle School Committee.
I'm Julie Viola. I'm the chair of the Regional School Committee, and also I'm on the Carlisle School Committee.
People always ask me about your role. Like, how much time do you actually put in? You're on 2 school committees, right?
Yes, it seems to be more and more as the school year goes on. I would figure in a typical week, 8 to 10 hours on my end, but I'm not a chair.
Yeah, but mine probably tracks about the same, with probably an additional maybe 5 for the chair. And then during budget season, it can go upwards. Or when we're doing things like applying for CPC and going between both towns, it can get up into like the 20 to 25 hours a week at times. But mostly, like Brian said, around like 10 hours or so.
Well, thanks for what you do. And I think everybody wants to know, how sick of you are you of saying amenities? Like, I can't spell it, so.
So we're talking about toilets, talking about ADA accessible toilets today.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think amenities makes it sound perhaps more glamorous than it is. As Julie said, it's toilets at the end of the day.
All right, so let's talk about it. What is the amenities building project and what should people know about it?
Yeah. So the amenities building project is to put permanent bathroom facilities by the football field at the high school. This was something that was supposed to happen when the new high school was built about a decade ago. There weren't funds for it at that point. And so for the last decade, we've just had porta potties outside the stadium. And then for certain events, such as graduation, they even have to bring in more porta potties because the 3 that are there are not sufficient. But really, besides having permanent bathrooms, what's the most important piece is the fact that we need to have bathrooms that are accessible to all members of the community. There is one outhouse there that in theory is wheelchair accessible, but that's still just not meeting the needs. And frankly, we're hearing some pretty terrible stories from members of the community who just can't use the facilities that are there.
Yeah, and I think now is really important, just given the other projects that we have, both in Concord and Carlisle, and this just feels like the right year to get this done with all the other capital projects that we have on tap in the future.
And sometimes when people are engaging with town meeting, it's the first time they're seeing a project, but this project's been talked about for a while, right? How long have you been talking about this, and what has the process been to get here?
Yeah, so it's definitely been spoken about for a number of years. Last year, the school committee, and this was before Julie and I were on the regional school committee, last year they were starting to move towards town meeting, but it became apparent that the school committee just didn't have enough information yet. So in September of this year, we did vote to have Gale Associates do a study, a design study, to come back to us with recommendations. And we got that first report right around Thanksgiving. And the school committee went through the different design options. And in December of last year, we chose the design that made the most sense to us. At the same time, we were doing outreach to various government officials, Representative Sandra Cataldo, State Senator Mike Barrett, U.S. Rep. Laura Trahan, just to see if there was any funding at the state level or the federal level that would be available. Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. So we're continuing those conversations still. And so that's when, in December, we really pivoted to focusing on funds through CPA grants.
And I would say that even before that as well, in addition to what Brian mentioned, I mean, we met with the Recreation Committee in Concord, just because there is some regionalization to some degree there, even though it's run in the town of Concord. Just to see, like Brian was saying, like what other funds can we find so that it's not going to the taxpayers. And so that's that kind of meetings that we're talking about that just takes time. Sitting down with the select boards in both towns, sitting down with yourself and Carrie LaFleur in Concord, to just see what's happening with ARPA funding, what's happening with DEI money, because this is an inclusivity piece. And yeah, so to Brian's point though, as we started to coming up more and more empty-handed, the CPA route seemed to be the best route for us to get this done.
Right, so we have regional school support, CPC support, and I know the select board and the FinCom are supporting this project. So what does a yes vote mean? If voters at town meeting, they say yes, what are they voting for in this project?
Yep, and quite frankly, a yes vote is different between the two towns. So, and we're in a unique situation this year because Carlisle will be voting before Concord, just because of the order of the town meetings. In the case of Carlisle, a yes vote would be, first, yes, the town supports the idea of amenities building, and also that the town supports using funds from CPA in order to pay the Carlisle portion. And we're still getting final numbers as Gale Associates finishes the report, but it would be up to $432,000. I do expect that to be reduced by the time we get to town meeting, but the original ask of our CPC was up to $432,000, and that's based off of Carlisle having about 24% share of the overall school budget. In Concord, we were not able to submit an application on time to meet their the CPC guidelines in Concord. Their application process closed in September. So in Concord, they are actually voting for the town to borrow their portion of the funds for this project.
All right, so they need a yes vote here in Carlisle and a yes vote in Concord, and then this project can start after a decade of discussion about it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I should say there is precedence with Carlisle CPA funds going to recreation at the high school. In 2015, when the new building went in place and the fields were being redone, the town of Carlisle did agree at that point to help fund the fields through CPA. And so there's precedent, and really hoping that the town will support it this time around as well.
Right. This is a great and complex project. Where can people find more information about it if they want to dig in deep first?
So a couple places. One would be on the Carlisle town website. We've shared materials that will be linked as part of town meeting. Also on the Concord Carlisle Regional School District's website, we're building out and basically a lot of the same materials, but they would be available there as well, concordcarlisle.org.
Yeah, and I think just one other piece on the background information, in addition to finding the information as people are going through everything, one of the pieces that I think is going to be in the FAQ is where this is going to be is next to Memorial Field, so the stadium that we're all familiar with. And as Brian mentioned, there's huge events like graduation, but then there's also just the use of the campus. So we actually were able to pull a lot of the data on who's using it, where it's being, what parts of the campus are being used the most. And Mighty Moose goes through here. Kicks for Cancer has events here. There's recreation groups. So this is a huge part of definitely the high school athletics, Friday night football games, things like that. But this is really like a multi-generational use, and the accessibility piece just can't be underscored enough. And I know we both, in addition to the rest of the committee, is so appreciative of the support that we've gotten here in Carlisle. We've, as Brian mentioned earlier, we've just had so many people come with questions, and so that's why knowing where the information is really important about accessibility, because we're really building places where people can use the bathroom. It's like, it is like as direct as that. And that means people who are coming to see their kids or their grandkids play in a sport, observe something, like I said, like the Mighty Moose that we all care about so much in the community, or going like as part of like flag football for recreation on a Sunday morning. So we're really excited about it. It just feels like kind of a, I don't want to say a no-brainer, but to some degree, just the right thing to do.
All right. Well, thanks for all your work on this project, and thanks for all you do. We'll see you at town meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the articles recommended provides rental assistance to Carlisle residents. And to better understand this issue, I've brought in a special guest and expert. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Aubrey Thomas. I'm usually just the Assistant Town Administrator and HR Director, but I'm also currently the Interim COA-HS Director.
Perfect person to talk about this. So what is our rental assistance program, and what should residents know about this topic?
Sure. So there are many seniors in town who are on fixed incomes and spend more than 30% of their income on rent. In order to help secure them in their homes and help them still be able to stay in Carlisle, we have this rental assistance program that can fund up to $400 a month to residents.
And this has been a program we've been doing for a couple years.
Yes, and it was started with ARPA funding, and once those were depleted, we wanted to make sure that we continued with the support because there's still a strong need in town.
All right, so the COHS asked the CPC to recommend this article, and they have.
Yes.
So now a yes vote at town meeting would mean what?
To continue $50,000 annually for this next coming fiscal year to support this program.
One of the important articles in the CPC consent agenda is some design funding for Diamond Park, and I'm joined by an expert to help us understand that topic. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah Wengert. I am currently the chair of the Diamond Park Subcommittee, and I'm also on the Recreation Commission, and the subcommittee is a subcommittee of the Recreation Commission. And we are asking for funding to do a redesign and create a plan and survey for Diamond Park, which has been a toddler park in our town since the mid-'80s, but is definitely in need of repair and a significant refresh. So the funding will cover doing a land survey as well as creating a design of a new sort of adventure style, nature style playground in that area.
So I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I introduced you as an expert on this. Did you ever think you'd be an expert of toddler playgrounds?
No, I did not.
So why did you get involved in this project?
I have 2 young kids in the town. I have a 18-month-old and a almost 4-year-old, and I've been on the Recreation Commission for the last couple years. I also helped a lot with the Castle Playground, which was really interesting. But the big thing for me with this project is that the Castle Playground is awesome, but it's not open during the school day. So for stay-at-home parents or caregivers of young kids in this town, we don't have a safe toddler playground to go to because Diamond Park, unfortunately, is in disrepair and really doesn't serve the needs of our community.
So for people who don't know, what is a toddler park? How is that different? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it just means toddlers can go, but is there another?
Yeah, so a true toddler park should have a fully fenced in area so that parents know that their kids can't get out, and also has all lower structures that are safe and appropriate for children in the 0 to 5 range. And the structure that's currently there, the large climbing structure, is definitely not the right type of thing. It has areas that younger kids could fall off of, for example. So it's not perfect for the toddlers.
So if residents and voters at town meeting supported this article and they said yes,
Mhm.
they would be funding a study
Yep.
in order to inform a larger design, right?
Exactly. So they'd be doing a land survey of that area, and then funding the design process, which will be collaborative, and we're trying to get a lot of town input in that as well to create a design that works best for the town. A big part of this also is going to be making the park ADA accessible, because currently it is not. for those who have been in that area, the parking's all on a hill. It is a hill, and we're not going to take the hill away, but we need to make ADA accessible parking. We need to make ramps. We need to make the surface functional for all people in town.
And this is why we're bringing in an engineering firm to discuss how that would work.
Exactly.
It's
That's
not
how
just plopping equipment down.
Exactly. It's
fully
not
designed.
just we have to do the survey and everything to get all the grades and all that.
Let's say everything goes well, this is approved, and the funding for the big project is approved. When could we see a new Diamond Park?
That's a good question. Everything takes a little bit of time, so I think our goal would be to get this funding in this year, and then hopefully have the design and everything ready to apply for more CPC funding in the following year, in 2026, to then build probably later in 2026 into 2027 is my guess.
Well, I think one of the greatest things about Carlisle is the volunteerism, and you
Yep.
put a lot of time. We've emailed a lot about this. You put a lot of time into this project, so thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you at town meeting.
Yep.
One of the items recommended by the Community Preservation Committee is the rehabilitation of the Banta Davis track, and I brought in an expert to describe this. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. So my name is Scott Jameson. I'm on the Recreation Commission in Carlisle. You might already know me from the school committee as well. But I'm coming to you today from the Recreation Commission about the Banta Davis track.
So what is it about the Banta Davis track that we're trying to do? What are we trying to fix?
Yeah, well, the issue with the current track is that it has it's an asphalt track. So it's a big sort of rounded square, if you will, in the soccer field at Banta Davis. And there's a current track there. There's a few issues with it today, which is there's a lot of potholes and cracks with grass growing and uneven surfaces. So if you have anyone that's trying to use it for rehabilitation or walking or a wheelchair, it just doesn't accommodate any of those needs right now. And it's really the only sort of level, flat surface we have in Carlisle that's good for things like, a younger person, maybe even trying to ride a bike on a flat surface, which it's really not for that per se, but that's, it could be used for that once in a while. Or, someone that maybe needs to do rehabilitation on their like a recent surgery for their legs or something like that. It's perfect for that, and also just running and walking, which you would normally do on a track. One of the issues.
Sorry, I understand there's some accessibility aspects to this.
Yeah, exactly. So because we want to fix the track itself, we also want to add capabilities for things like accessible parking. So maybe a couple of handicap spots for accessibility there. There's no way to get to the track on an even surface, so making an even surface that goes from the parking lot to the track itself. And there's no rest stops on the track. So if you're going through the whole thing and you're someone who wants to take a rest, or you are rehabilitating or whatever it is, we're going to make some aprons at the midpoint to allow benches and rest areas and things like that. So the idea would be to not only repair the track, but also add accessibility features as well.
Great. So assuming this passes town meeting, when would this project start, you think?
The goal is to start it right away and have this done by fall.
Oh, wow. Great. That'd be great.
Yeah, the good part is that summer's a great time to use it because it's outside of soccer practice and things like that, so we can get a truck up there and get it all done. So.
All right, this sounds like a great project, part of our CPC agenda, and a yes vote would mean that this rehabilitation could begin as early as this summer.
Exactly right.
All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at town meeting.
Great, thanks for having me.
Hi there, it's Barney Arnold again, and I have the pleasure of talking with Jack Trost, who's the Vice President of the Historical Society here in town, and he's going to talk about one of the projects that our committee is recommending be passed at town meeting.
Great, so we're very excited with the Historical Society's application. We're seeking funding for some painting and restorative work. It's the culmination, actually, of a $100,000 project. This is the last $24,000 piece of it, and it's been involved in a process of restoring both the Heald House, which dates back to the late 1700s, and the barn, which is adjacent, which is early 1800s. And the project has, as I said, involved other funding efforts. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. It was a matching grant for $43,000, and the Historical Society engaged in a fundraising effort and matched that. So what we're excited about is this will be the finish coat, if you will, on the two buildings.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure most people know where the Heald House and the museum are, but would you describe for folks where would you go if you want to take a look at these two great buildings, and also how the museum works?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Barney. So the Heald House Museum, for those of you who don't know or haven't had a chance to visit, is on Concord Street as you're heading south toward Concord, and it's on the right-hand side, 698, and it's a pretty distinct yellow building with a red barn, and we welcome visitors once a month for an open house, and we do special exhibitions as well. But we have a great collection of Revolutionary War artifacts, which are particularly popular right now as we go into the Mass 250th celebration of April 19th. But we also have a lot of local history in terms of agricultural implements and other aspects of Carlisle over the years. We have a working loom, so people that's been popular to come and see that at work, and a lot of young people enjoy the opportunity to come. But we welcome people from town and from all around the area.
And do you have to pay to visit the museum?
No, it's free admission. We do ask people to join the Historical Society, and that's an important way for us to meet our budget, but no obligation for a visit.
Yeah. And one of the things the CPC committee really appreciated was the effort to really maintain and keep the historical nature of the two buildings in good shape so that it can protect and continue to conserve Carlisle's amazing history.
Yeah, no, and we really appreciate that. As a matter of fact, two of the interior projects are essentially addressing issues that were caused by some damage to the exterior of the building. But this project, between carpentry work and basically now the finished coat of paint, will protect the whole envelope and all the collections. And fortunately, we didn't have any damage to any of our collection, but so it's important to have that in place for sure. So, and we've been the beneficiary of other grants through the CPA, helping us out in the past with mechanical upgrades so that we have better temperature control, and so we really appreciate the partnership with the town in support of our request.
Yeah, well, that's great, Jack. Thanks.
Sure, and if you want to know more and don't have time to come by, I invite you to go to the website of the Carlisle Historical Society. We also have the MA 250 link for the whole programming for the celebration coming up on April 19th.
This Saturday.
Yes. And there is a section on the MA 250 of all of the patriots. And one of them is Samuel Heald, and he is the person who resided in the Heald House. So if you want to know more about the Heald House and Samuel Heald, visit the the Carlisle 250 link from the Historical Society's website.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Well, Jack, let's talk about another project that the CPC is recommending, and
Okay.
that's the Spalding Ball Field, down the street from the school, just below Diamond Park.
Yep, sure. So this is another project that the Historical Society is excited about. I think a lot of people may not be aware that Spalding Ball Field is an historic site in Carlisle. The fieldstone backstop that is right below Dement Park and the mesh screen there are both historic elements. And we have been working with the Recreation Commission, teaming up to basically take the field, which has sort of become overgrown and not used, and bring it back to life. It's coincidentally the 100th anniversary this year of the initial opening and grading of the ball field. The backstop was built a little bit later. And so it's also significant in the sense that it's a centennial celebration for the ball field. So we're very excited about basically bringing that diamond back to life, and happy to talk about more details in that regard. But it's, I think, a $70,000 request.
Yeah, that we're recommending. So one of the things I love about this project is the specific history about the Spalding aspect of the name of the field. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's somewhat, I think, coincidental in the sense that the donor of the field, Spalding, who was from Westford, and there were many Spaldings in Carlisle and Chelmsford that historically go back to the 1600s. And one of those descendants is Albert G. Spalding, who ended up out in Chicago, became one of the early pioneers in baseball. And he was a pitcher first, then he was a manager and an owner of the Chicago White Sox, and eventually he's the father of the modern stitched baseball. So there is this connection all the way to baseball's kind of early days of the Spalding family.
Yes.
That I think is really a great historical element as well.
Yeah. So you said the ball field is really no longer able to be used. So talk a little bit more about what would we be able to do there on that field if this project is approved?
Yeah. So the plan from a recreational perspective is to basically resurface the infield so that it will be a working 90-foot diamond, and Concord Carlisle Youth Baseball, as well as some other adult leagues, are excited about the possibility of having a 90-foot diamond for use. There's only one outside the high school in Concord now, and so it would basically be available for play at the 90-foot regulation, but we're also hoping, working with the RecCom, to make it available for smaller 60-foot diamond use as well, so that it's a real functional field. Mm-hmm. And just basically, I mean, as one of the members of the RecCom said, they were really saddened by the idea that they could no longer go there and play on the field. They used to just like to go and, pitch.
Yeah.
So, and part of this is to also include a portable backstop, which will enable use for younger players. And of course, in the 90-foot use, the further historic backstop is appropriate.
Yeah,
So
got it.
catchers are a little bit more skilled at that level.
Yeah, so it's going to be adaptive.
Correct.
Right? We'll be able to adapt it from the 90-foot to the 60-foot for younger players.
Correct.
That's great.
Hopefully this opens it up too for Carlisle middle schoolers who, you know, once had teams that competed with other schools, and you know, if you build it, they will come, hopefully. So
Yes.
we're excited about both the historic and recreational potential that can be opened up here.
Yeah, and I've heard from a few college students who are ball players that when they're home, this would be a great place to go, you know, continue practicing, or even in the summertime, you know, playing, if it's a 90-foot field.
So there are some collegiate summer leagues where people who played in high school and college, you know, play in the summer. And so there is a real interest in having these fields available. And so I think that's something that the town will be able to work on.
Yeah, potentially their recreation commission could be charging for use of the field. Right?
Absolutely.
Older groups, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So,
Good.
good. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.